think we're live. I am going solo today. Reed and Paul will be potentially joining us in a bit. So this is going to be a new format. We'll see how it goes. Nonetheless, hope everybody is doing great today. Freight Caviar is back from Europe. Paul's back with us as well. He's gonna be here for 2 weeks. We got a lot of travel coming up over the next 2 weeks. We're gonna be going on a Freight Caviar tour, essentially. Paul will be in Portland over, I think, Sunday and Monday, and then we'll be in Miami for a few-day conference, and then we're gonna be going to Manifest. Hopefully a bunch of you are going to be there, and it'd be awesome to see you. If you are going to Manifest, let us know. We would love to see you there. I think a decent portion of the FreightX community is actually going to be going as well, from what I hear. So that'll be pretty fun. But let's. There's actually a bunch of things that happened this week. Jesselyn says that she will be at Manifest as well. But this week there were a couple of interesting things. I'm gonna leave the gourd thing for a little bit later once Reed maybe joins us. But for so yeah, we can cover that in a bit. But we had a couple of interesting things that we went over for Freight Caviar in the newsletter this week. So let me pull some of those things up. But overall, in today's newsletter, for example, we did a breakdown of some of the public fleets and their reportings. Overall, there was like a huge net loss of about $71 million. Let's see here. So shit screen. This is interesting doing this whole thing solo by myself. So bear with me here for a bit. Share. All right. And then I think we can do, let's see, is this one better? Yeah, I guess this should be good. So yeah, today, let's see here. We had, there was actually, before I got into the net losses, there was this new scam that has been tricking brokers. And let's see, let's open this up. So basically, the broker, and bear with me, because I don't know like too much of the details, but want to get you guys aware of some of these things. So a broker would pose as a fake shipper, and they would also pose as a fake carrier. And so there was an image here basically notifying, it's not really that for you guys, but I'll share new interesting scam that's going on in the industry. Apparently scammers contact brokers pretending to be a shipper and give them loads. The same scammers then book the loads as carriers and get paid for them by the broker. So I haven't seen that type of a scam take place yet. So that's a new one overall. But let's see. So if we break it down, like the first step, the scammer poses as a broker to a shipper, acquiring their credit information. The second step, they then impersonate a shipper to a different broker using the previously acquired information. That's I guess kind of clever. And the third step, with a fake motor carrier number, they book loads from a legitimate broker. So the final outcome is essentially that, acting as a shipper, they award the load to a broker, collect the payment as a carrier, and essentially never pay the broker. So by the time this kind of gets recognized, it can happen for multiple shipments, and the broker really doesn't realize that problem for like 30 to 60 days. So that's a pretty interesting one. Cassandra had some things to say on how to prevent scams like this, how to vet the shipper, how to essentially check the carrier, I believe so. Cassandra is also the CEO of a company called Carrier Sure, and they also provide a really nice. It's actually pretty cool. So you just insert your MC number, and they give you a kind of a letter grade for the company for the carrier that you're working with. I Highway. There's a couple of different identity providers for carriers as well. Highway, I think, is one of them as well. So those are pretty helpful for checking the carrier side. But have I haven't personally seen too many ways to really vet the shipper to date, at least. But a couple of ways that you can vet the shipper is just Google and LinkedIn searches. Uh, a really big one that I think people often overlook really easily is just checking the email domain. So like after the at sign, kind of checking what's the ending, like the website.com, and you can just easily copy that entire domain, put it into your web browser, and see what the page shows up at. Um, some sophisticated scammers can maybe even go as far as just like creating a fake web page that looks like the shipper. So, but I think that would be even a little bit more rare. But for the most part, that's a really good way to kind of just check the background of the shipper. You can also run credit checks. So different, I believe, like different factoring companies will have credit checks that you can run with. I know HallPay, for example, has one. I think Triumph Pay will have that as well. And then limit extended credit. So basically, you kind of just want to work your way up with the shippers that you're interacting with, and um, how much how much you kind of loan them in services over time. So let's see what else here. Um, Hopefully Reed can join us in a bit, because I think this Gord thing showing up on Tucker Carlson was super interesting. But he knows a little bit more about it than me, because he's a little bit more plugged in. So what else is here? Thought this was pretty interesting too. Like Triumph Financial reported an 8.8 million net income. So for those of you, I'm pretty sure everybody probably knows who Triumph Pay is at this point. But if you don't, they're factoring, one of the biggest factoring companies and financial services companies for the freight market. So they reported 8.8 million net income for quarter 4. And from my understanding, I read uh, the shareholder letter that was written by Aaron Graft, the CEO. And I believe he said that they're about a year ahead of schedule, which was really impressive to hear. So I believe that these results were expected like about a year from now. But in general, besides the net income invoice trends, um, they saw an increase in the average invoice factored, rising to about 1.7 thousand, almost 1.8 thousand. Essentially, just what that means ultimately is that the freight rates should have, like the rates per mile should have likely been moving up. And um, I believe people from Freightwaves have been sharing some charts from their data that might show that. And if anybody wants to fact check me on that, please do, because that would be helpful given this whole solo attempt today. What else here? So revenue growth was pretty good. Is 46% increase in overall revenue from like the previous year, and the fourth quarter alone was about 60%. So the reason I'm highlighting this, and the reason that we thought this was pretty interesting, was because this uh, kind of, at least to me, counter it's a counterpoint to maybe an overall bad market sentiment right now, with not too many maybe not too many freight opportunities basically being out there. But given that Triumph's revenue has been increasing, there's a couple ways to look at that, but obviously maybe they as a company they have been providing better products and services, but mm, you can also maybe look at it as just the overall market sentiment is that there's actually freight being moved overall. So that was a pretty interesting kind of discovery and insight that we saw and observed. All these things are typically covered um, in our Monday, Wednesday, Friday newsletter. But in some cases, we only highlight them and kind of just provide a link, like in the around the freight web section. There's just a short blurb that we sometimes include, and oftentimes like there's a main story which we dive into pretty heavily, but there's also three main stories for the day for like we call what's cooking in freight, and we do kind of a maybe a slightly longer paragraph for those. So some of these things don't get covered in depth as much, but let's see. So Brush Pass Research, which has a pretty big data set of freight brokerages across the country, they showed that there are about 7.8% fewer brokerages than there were a year ago. So essentially less people are opening brokerages. But if you think about how this looked like, where these numbers are in comparison to before 2020, when basically there was just market like chaos and everybody and their grandma was opening a freight brokerage, it's slightly starting to come back and to normal levels. And if you look at this chart here, and you kind of were to plot a line back from maybe like July of 2020, this is generally we're still more or less like above kind of above the trend line in terms of how many brokerages there are, active freight brokerages there are in the operating in the country. So it seems like it's overall the amount of freight brokerages that exist technically still are growing when you look over a longer period of time. But let's see, I'm going decline to your. So this is, let's see, 3-year growth percentage. It's obviously starting to decline faster as well. There's a comment here. I think the best way to check, actually, I'll show this. I think the best way to check the broker is to call office and give them the pickup number, and they will tell if it's a scam or not. Yeah, that's probably a good way to check. As well, that's not a bad idea. Yeah, I recommend doing that as well. So in terms of the brokerages from January 2020 to 2022, there were 25,000 new brokerages that were open, and only 9,000 of them remain active. So in aggregate, there's still more brokerages, many more brokerages than there were before, but fewer people are opening them, probably in light of there being less freight than there was in, say, 2022. Another interesting thing that was covered this week was the amount of cargo theft that has arisen. So we wrote this in saying that cargo theft is up 57%, but so just in general, CargoNet, this company called CargoNet, which basically provides security. I believe sensors for cargo are one of the products that they offer, but they've been consistently providing these industry cargo theft reports over time. So they estimated that the value of stolen goods is nearly about 130 million for 2023. And while they didn't really report the exact number of cargo theft in Q4, we basically deduced how much more or less that was. And I wrote down the number somewhere, but out of 30, I think it was 131 million. There was kind of a consistent. It kept up and down between quarter 1, quarter 2, 3, and 4. It kept going up and down between the quarters, and I think this quarter was more than the last. So it just seems like it's overall bouncing. But cargo theft is obviously still like a pretty big problem, just in general. But was probably a result of the fact that we went, quarter 4 is spans the holidays, and so during the holiday season, you typically will see more cargo theft than you do otherwise. So I actually, if I remember correctly, let's see, I'm trying to find here quarter 2, where we put for quarter 2. Let's see here. First quarter. So 20 million shipments the first quarter, 44 million the second quarter. So that's like April to June, 31 million in the second quarter, and then over 24 million in the fourth quarter. Yeah, so the 24.9 million is the one that we deduced because CargoNet actually didn't report that specifically. They just reported the total number for the entire year. But it seems there's a 68% year-over-year increase in Q4. So the way I understand this, it would be that it's 66% more cargo theft in Q4 of 2023 than there was in Q4 of 2022. I might be wrong on that, but that's how I understood it when we were in this together. So in the first 20 weeks, there's a 41% increase in incidents as well. So that's pretty alarming nonetheless. 220 plus monthly reports of cargo theft. So that's like almost 7.5 cargo like theft reports every single day, roughly, across the country. Do you guys think that's like a lot? Do you guys think that's a little? It also depends on like the value, I guess, of the goods itself. Keep in mind, CargoNet likely doesn't have, the entire freight market basically under its web of observance. So these statistics that they're reporting are probably only a fraction of all the theft that might be actually happening in the entire industry. And I remember a couple of years ago when I was when I was spending time on the cargo theft side of things, it was able to actually join us. So
hold on,
when I was spending
right
time
back.
on the cargo theft side of things, there are some of the FBI reporting north of $10 billion of freight being stolen every single year was what I remember studying, and obviously that number is much larger than what CargoNet is reporting. But Reed, have you heard anything similar to, or I guess Reed will be rejoining us shortly as well. So has anybody actually seen, and you can say in the comments, like, has anybody actually gone recently through had a cargo theft incident, or seen,
do you hear me,
kind of firsthand or felt firsthand that cargo theft is rising, or is it the same? Is it less than it was before? People seem to be sleeping today because there's fewer comments. I was also going solo too, so I'm not going to blame anybody.
Can you hear me?
Reed, you there?
I can't hear you at all. I don't know.
I can't hear you.
It might be my bad. Hold on. Let me turn my volume.
Oh, hopefully you guys can hear me. And
no, I'm just an idiot.
I guess some people have been commenting, so you must be able to hear me.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, Reed, say something.
Hello?
My volume was off. Sorry.
Dude, I'm going crazy.
Sorry. Okay.
How's it going?
What's up, man? Good. So there's
what's
one
going on?
person.
What did I miss?
There's one person that Jeffrey Staggers is higher and more sophisticated. So I take it that that's higher rates cargo theft, and the theft itself is more sophisticated. That's how I understand. That's how I understand that. But Reed, what's going on?
Just a bit of a chaotic morning over here.
Yeah. You still have that beautiful morning sunrise though?
I do. It's been cloudy for a couple days. So today's the first clear day, which is not normal for here. So it's nice right now. It's cold, but it's nice.
When we landed yesterday in O'Hare, we were flying from Warsaw through Copenhagen and then finally to O'Hare. And when we landed yesterday, there was fog. You couldn't see the runway up until about 2 seconds, roughly, before you got.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, before we hit the runway. So
pilots are flying with like just computers, can't see anything.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that they
hear it.
So
what's
up, Garrett?
How's it going?
How you doing?
How's it going, man?
Pretty good. Friday, looking forward to the weekend. We're almost there.
Almost there, yeah. So we were, I was, sorry, going down the cargo theft rabbit hole of things. And I don't know if you guys saw this exchange between Paul Graham and Ryan Peterson, but Ryan Peterson basically posted a big screenshot of the CNBC article where cargo theft was up like 56%. Did you guys see this? Back and forth?
I saw that. I saw it go as it was happening, and I was a bit confused. I was like, I haven't heard anyone actually talk about the mafia in a while. So it felt kind of weird that Paul Graham just kept being like, well, why is the mafia not doing this? It's like, when's the last time you heard about the mafia? I don't know.
Yeah. I think Ryan's right in that mafia was, for the most part, at least.
Why did the mafia overlook this opportunity? What like, it just seems like a weird thing to say.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's just the business, I guess. Yeah, it's pretty funny though.
He's like thinking about this from like a VC standpoint. He's like, what about the incumbents? What about the market incumbents?
Yeah, I think if there was this interview that Ryan Peterson had when he was basically applying to Y Combinator. So he got interviewed by both Paul Graham and Sam Altman, which is now the CEO of OpenAI. And if you watch that interview and like how Paul asked Ryan questions, back in 2013, I think the way that Paul asks these questions about, cartels or mafias and this kind of VC perspective would entirely make sense. But we linked it in one of our newsletters, but I thought it was actually pretty cool just in general, like Ryan giving a breakdown of what Flexport was back in the day. Did you guys by chance see that video?
I haven't, but it sounds interesting.
No, I didn't even realize. Wait, are you saying that Flexport was in Y Combinator?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Flexport was a YC company. And I
didn't know that.
One of the most interesting things for me about that video was, well, first off, I gained a lot of respect for like Ryan after watching that video. Like he was very well-spoken guy and really thoughtful. He also built Import Genius, if any of you know what that is. It was basically, I think, like the first website which took all of the import-export documents that have to get publicly that are publicly available of like what all goods are coming in and what goods are coming out, and he made this searchable database for it before he started Flexport. So he basically built that database and used it as their customer list. for
That's cool.
for growing Flexport. But the most interesting and unintuitive thing in that video was Ryan saying that he does not like burn rates at all, and I while
So
I
he
was
doesn't like when he doesn't wait. You mean like he doesn't like knowing when he's going to run out of money?
verbatim
Hell
in that
yeah.
video, that's what he was saying, and so
That's
I
chill.
respected that a lot, and that contrast that to like kind of where Flexport is today, where they actually, we can pull this up. They just raised, let's see here, where do we have this? Flexport just raised
$260 million from Shopify. It was like a line. It's basically like a line of credit, right?
Yeah, it's a convertible note. So for those of you who don't know what a convertible note is, it's a loan structured in such a way where the loaner can convert that loan into equity at some later date. So if the company ever decides to officially sell stock, during that selling point, you price what the stock is, and then any convertible note holder.
Yeah, it's kind of like a safe, except it's debt.
Yeah, except that a safe, which is a simple agreement for future equity, it's not debt. So it's strictly like money given to the entrepreneur or the company with no obligation for that money to return. So you'll just convert it into stock at some later point. But a convertible debt note is basically a loan, and it can accrue interest every year. So like, I don't know, something anywhere between 5 to 10% would be on the high side, I would say, but yeah, that's what Shopify.
Really? Yeah, it's chill. Did you see that? What was it? Was it Business Insider that wrote something like how that they were in trouble? Like they read this news as like fact, like as a sign that Flexport was struggling, and everyone was like, "Bro, like you don't."
I don't understand that.
That's not how this works.
Yeah, I don't.
Is that where all this stuff came from? Where people were like, "I wish I struggled as much as like
Yeah,
Flexport?"
exactly. Yeah,
exactly.
I don't know. I could be wrong about it being
Business
Insider. I forgot. I could be
Yeah.
wrong about that. So if I'm tarring Business Insider, I apologize. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it's completely okay to rip on Business Insider, in my view. But
they just fired a bunch of people too. I think like yesterday, maybe the day before. They laid off like 8% of their staff, so maybe that had something to do with it.
Maybe there was I don't know if you guys follow Bill. What's his name?
Bill Ackman.
Yeah, Bill Ackman. But he's going to war with Business Insider, along with, I guess, like David Portnoy from Barstool Sports tried to go to war with Business Insider as well, and so they wrote a pretty, I don't know, it was not great journalistic integrity, what Business Insider did to Bill Ackman's wife, but that's like a whole separate story. It's like separate from Freight. So if you're interested in that story, go look up Bill Ackman and take a look at what's happening there. But yeah, I thought that the headline here was very odd, particularly because like Shopify is growing like crazy. It's becoming an awesome business, and I forgot when exactly, but like within the last year or maybe 2 years, they basically divested or like kind of gave their entire logistics division to Shopify. You guys heard about that, right? Their entire logistics division to Flexport.
Yeah, I did.
You guys think that was good? You guys think on Shopify's part?
I mean, I think it makes sense unless Shopify is trying to get a little more. Is it horizontal or vertical? I don't know. One of those two. You know what I mean? Like trying to get out of the pure kind of like not real world, right? Like
yeah, I do feel like Shopify dabbles a lot. Like they do a lot of like small things that kind of like potentially grow like over time. I feel like logistics is one of those things that it's once it gets so big and you have so much, like, you're gonna own so much of it, it just can get so difficult. I could definitely see that being one of those things where they just like we need to just like hand this off to somebody. So just put all the eggs in the Flexport basket, kind of. I think it makes sense. I mean, having a strong partner like that, especially with as big as Shopify is, they have the ability to do that. It seems like a solid move to me.
Yeah, Shopify is pretty international as well. So it's like
Ryan had tweeted a couple times, or maybe I've seen it on podcasts, but he's said that they're like not far from profitability.
well, that's great.
Which is interesting.
I know they have like $1 billion in cash before this raise. I don't know how much of that they went through, but I couldn't kind of wrap my head around any of the sentiment around like that Flexport is a struggling company. Like, yeah, sure, they went through, they had a CEO change in 2023. Ryan Peterson came back. So there was some turmoil and things like that, but I don't necessarily think that reflects anything about Flexport's business, like their products and their services that they offer. I don't know the inner workings. And to be honest, I don't think really anybody who's commenting for the most part on Flexport in one way or another truly knows the inner workings of sport.
Well, Ryan doesn't like burn rates, right? So maybe Flexport doesn't even know.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, maybe Ryan's opinion on that changed, over the years, and I don't even honestly, I don't know if that's the case or not. But if I had, I definitely heard many different like venture capitalists take the stance. Like there's one called David Sachs from Craft Ventures in particular, where he literally says it's okay if the company is burning money, provided that they're growing in terms of like the amount of users that they're getting, right? And there's a lot of people in this world that can't wrap their head around like how can you possibly do that? But investors look at building businesses and like there's another way that they look at building businesses than maybe some entrepreneurs do. And I think it's
in a way that like makes sense. I mean, they're literally like optimizing for just like massive return. Like that's the only that's like the way the game is played, like you have to be game. I mean, it's not like even a good or bad. Like I'm not attaching a value judgment to this. It's just like the way the game is played. Like if they're gonna, raise whatever $500 million and place, 100 bets in a bunch of like seed or Series A companies, like they basically just need to cut like one or two to like pay off big to be like a unicorn to make their money back,
Yeah.
So they're basically just know they're flushing money down the drain in some situations. Well, not know, but like are okay with that. They're probably going to go to zero on a lot of the bets, So it's
they write off many of the bets. That's for sure. So they like venture capitalists. They go and find money from extremely high net worth individuals or pension funds. And when they get that money and they secure that money into like a bucket and they call it a fund, like I say, that fund is $100 million or $1 billion, the rarer, but they have to deploy that money. They have to put that money and find a home for that money. Otherwise, if they're not able to show that they're good at deploying this money, which is one part of the equation, then they won't be able to raise like their next fund. And a lot of these venture capital companies, they make money on management fees. So like they'll try, I don't know if it's like 2% or like maybe it goes up to like 6%, but on the total amount of money that they raise, basically the venture capital firm, they make money by charging 2% of that entire amount, and they just keep it forever. So I don't know. It's a different perspective.
Not a bad business model.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that that's a bad business model. Yeah. So from an investor standpoint, but so it's just a different way of looking at, I guess. how he's a
Have we
multiple.
talked about how I'm like apparently a deep state plant yet?
All right, I was saving that for now or for later. So let's see here. Where do
Did you guys
we
write an article about that?
start with this?
I hope so.
Oh, is it in here?
So
Oh
not
my god.
so we didn't write an article about that you're being accused of being a deep state plant yet, but the article or that whole deep state that Reed is a deep state plant stems from the fact that a surprise appearance of Gord McGill, who's Reed. How would you describe him in the freight community? Like
He's a trucker turned he's a trucker who started writing, and he's been published in numerous publications. He's very outspoken, very opinionated, has a lot of hot takes, might be the appropriate way of saying it. But just a very passionate dude. I mean, there's no, whether you agree with him and his views or not. I mean, he's clearly a genuine guy, in my opinion, and very well written, well spoken. Is very articulate too. So he's been passionate about that whole. He's Canadian too. I should have led with that, but
Sure.
he was very passionate and outspoken about the whole Freedom Convoy thing during COVID. And apparently there's a handful of truckers who are still in prison or jail or have been in captivity since then, like without any trial or anything like that. And so he's been kind of on a crusade to raise awareness about this and write about it. And went on, like, somehow finagled his way onto Tucker Carlson's show to talk about it, which came out of nowhere because he's banned. Like, I don't know how it happened. All I know, well, Gord's been banned on Twitter like 7 times. And so he's so he kind of operates behind the scenes now, but he's clearly not been hampered by the lack of a Twitter account. He is on LinkedIn though. He is on LinkedIn, so that is the one place you can find him.
Right. So so Gord got on Tucker, and this obviously created like a crazy amount of like news. Everybody was surprised by it, right? And then people started. Okay, so explain to us like how it evolved from Gord appeared on Tucker to Reed as a deep state plant. Like, how did
so my guess is what happened is well, actually not even a guess. Like, a lot of people don't like Tucker, right? He's very prominent. A lot of people don't like him. And probably as a result, anybody who comes on his show is automatically somebody that those people don't like too, and they'll all look into him and whatever. So this poly chick, like, apparently watched it and was like, you know, this guy doesn't seem like a real trucker. He seems like kind of a caricature of a trucker, I think she called him, basically, like wearing a costume because he was wearing like flannels and stuff like that, I guess. Yeah. I don't know. And then everyone was like posting pictures of them with Gord, being like, no, Gord's real, like, and they were also just on the Tucker thread posting pictures, being like, hey, this is my friend Gord, like, that's cool. Yeah, like all these pictures. And then like that account just started saying like he's fake or whatever. And then people kept posting pictures, and they all had Please Advise hats in the pictures. And so she like then transitioned to me, I think just because they were all wearing hats. So she must have looked into the hats and then like watched this podcast I did with Blythe and talked about how I'm like an idiot apparently and like don't know how to speak, which is fair in some situations. And then I only replied to her like twice. I think I just said, like, she called me sus, like, and then I'm like trying to get drivers to accept AI tracking. I don't even know, whatever. And I love how she puts quotes. Who is this guy? And then just puts like quotes around stuff. Like I love it. Like, it's kind of like that. You know that meme where the guy from Always Sunny like has the threads around and he's like going crazy. Yeah. It's kind of like it. So it's been an interesting couple of days because now everybody's like piled onto her, and even like Craig is like playing into it. I think he just tweeted at her again. basically. It's been a whole sort of thing. I don't even know, man. It's been kind of weird.
Did he like
But
reply to it, or did he?
no. Go to his posts. Go to his posts, and then scroll down. He posted. He posted Billy's article. Keep going.
Okay. Hold
No, right there. His
Oh,
Billy.
So
it is kind of funny though, because like,
well, hold on. Let's give the context. So the freight, there's this account called the Freight Bandit, and we know him, the person really well. But he came out with this magazine, and I think Reed actually last week you mentioned you showed us this magazine as well.
Right here. I don't know
like,
if you can see me.
How do you describe this? Like a comedic takes on.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It's right here.
How do I make you like? Okay. Anyway,
whatever. I mean, it's just a magazine, and it's hilarious. And
it's pretty funny. I recommend checking it out. But yeah, Craig.
It's satirical. It is satirical.
Yes, exactly.
And
it's like Mad Magazine for freight, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Gord has an article in here. I don't know if it's that might be serious. I haven't actually read everything yet. I need to read
Interesting.
it. But anyway, yeah, that's been a fun little. You just never know what's going to happen, you know.
Yeah.
On any given week, you never really know what's going to happen on the internet, and it's been this has been one of those weeks where like a lot of random stuff has happened, and
didn't your wife chime in on this?
Yeah, I think she quote tweeted the tweet where she called me sus and said like, yeah, like it's been 16 years and I don't think I've yeah, you can pull it up. I mean, I don't think I shared it, but
all right. Well,
but anyway,
that's so he did that. Reed's wife basically ended up chiming in.
Yeah, she played into it, and a lot of people were like, "Yeah, it seems questionable." I even started to question myself. I was like, "Damn, like maybe I am."
Deep planned.
It is pretty cool,
being a deep state plant.
Yeah, it's I guess it's cool. I don't know. I'm having fun, so
that's all that matters.
But anyway, everyone's having fun with it, and she has ended up blocking a bunch of people, which is pretty funny to me.
It's usually the path you go down, create a lot of chaos, and then you start blocking everybody.
Yeah. Well, hey, whatever works, I guess.
Had anybody heard of her prior to this? Or is like I'd never heard of her or anything, but some people said, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Justin. I think Justin said that he used to follow her. She got like kind of blew up during COVID because she was talking about how like everything was a conspiracy, I guess. And so yeah, I think some people were following her, but she seems like she just kind of goes around and tries to like connect a bunch of dots, I guess, maybe. I don't know. But it's and Craig did make a good point. He talked about like how cohesive like the online community is, that we're like being construed for like a fucking like a covert operation. Like that's pretty funny, actually.
It is pretty funny.
It's a pretty big community. There's a lot of people that were posting photos with Gord. And my just in general, like I remember the first time that I like even heard of Gord because it was being talked about as like voice of Gord. I didn't even know who he was, that he got banned from Twitter. Technically, I think the reason that he got banned from Twitter was because he was making like death threats to the Canadian Prime Minister or something like that. And I think that that violates the rules of Twitter or X. That's not true. Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I don't know. Well, whether or not they were true, I have no idea. Like I never saw the tweets that got him banned. He definitely is vocal about. He doesn't pull any punches on his feelings, I guess is a good way to put it.
Okay.
Justin wants to come on here with us. Should we invite him?
Yeah, send him a link.
Okay. Do I just send him the link up here?
Yeah, just in the group chat I texted you.
Okay.
That was I remember hearing, like, listening to him. Actually, I even talked to him, I think, in the Discord. You brought him into the arena, and there was like conversation about like autonomous trucks during that time. Remember that? Like that was like what,
Yeah. It was the
6
first
months ago,
arena
I
I
think?
did.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. When was that? 6 months ago? 5 months ago?
No, that was in like maybe October or September, maybe. I don't know, something like
And
that.
time flies. But yeah, I there was like some points that I disagreed with him on. Then he had some. He's very pro trucker. Understandably so. I respect that. He actually had some valid points in general, but
Yeah,
so I had
he's very anti-autonomous trucks. I
yeah,
guess is a good
he's
way to
very
put it.
very anti autonomous trucks for sure.
Yeah. That's how I feel too. Like me and Gord definitely have like some different opinions and stuff, but you gotta respect the guy for like sticking to his guns. You know, like he'll tell you what he thinks, and like honestly, like he'll argue with you about it, but he always tries to make it like valid points and stuff. I feel like he's well thought out in his opinions at least. So yeah, I feel you gotta respect that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, anybody who writes and Gord, from my understanding, is a writer. He writes pretty frequently.
Yeah, his Substack is good. He's got a Substack. I usually read it. He's
Anybody who writes usually has pretty clear thoughts. I mean, writing is like what helps you, clarify them. So
yeah.
that's I met him at Freightwaves F3, and I sat right next to him actually at the table. And honestly, the guy was he was definitely pretty smart. I would say, like more or less. I like the conversation with him. You can tell he's a thoughtful person. He's
Totally.
opinionated, like you said, but overall, I would say that
He's a
he's
good dude. I like him. I hung out with him at Mats. I hung out with him at F3. He's yeah. I've always had a good time with him. So
yeah.
it's cool to see him, climb the ladder. I don't know if there's a bigger stage he could possibly be on than going on Tucker Carlson's show.
I don't think so either.
I can't believe he got on it. It's amazing.
It's like pretty insane. And Justin can probably talk more about it than anyone else.
What's up, Justin?
What's up, fellas? Trying to get my microphone all set up here. 1 second.
We can hear you.
There we go. Gentlemen. Welcome to the.
How was your what's your side of comments on this whole Gord and more importantly Reed being a deep state plant?
Where's our check? That's my first reaction is where's our damn check? It's one thing to like see this stuff from the sideline, but it's another to like see it happen to you or someone you know personally, like in real time. Because these people were just like making stuff up like out of thin air, just like Lee Reed was saying, just connecting dots. And you see this stuff happen all the time, but it's like it's so weird seeing it happen to you. I just feel bad. These are people that I jokingly say that we're terminally online. Like we spend a lot of time online doing this shit, but like I feel like we're doing something productive with this. We're building networks and businesses and stuff like this. But I think a lot of these people, it's like a new version of reality TV for a lot of people. It's the new TV that they can interact with in real time. And so one, it's really fun. So that's usually why they're doing it. And then I assume the longer they're doing this, the more relationships they're building. So like now they're friends with all each other in their little groups. So when you got one group attacking another group, the reaction, the instinct is to like come together and defend your people. So if we're attacking them for them attacking us, it's like we're not going to change anybody's minds with this stuff. So I'm just like straight up attack. You're coming at a friend of mine and you're not being reasonable, then I'm just going to make your online experience as miserable as possible.
Justin's like a pit bull on the internet. He's
vicious. It is definitely a new source of entertainment. That's for sure. Like part of me was like, why is this Poly Anon account like being given the time of day? But then on the other side of things, it's like I don't know. I'm getting a lot of awareness to like just generally the freight community as well. So there's pros and cons, to that, I guess.
So Christian, are you in Chicago right now?
We just flew in. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yesterday.
Are you familiar with HOAs in America, homeowners associations?
If mostly bad things.
Exactly. So take that type of person who is like your typical HOA type and just put them online in front of a camera and just feed them conspiracy theory nonsense 24/7. That's the kind of like mentality you're dealing with here, and that's why they have all the free time to do this kind of stuff. They're usually not working, retired, maybe living off the dole. Um,
Yeah.
I'm speculating on this with Polly, and she has a fairly large audience. It's
20,
that's the most
20
baffling thing to me is on this is like she's got 20,000 plus people on Twitter that follow her, and I think 60,000 plus people that follow her on Rumble. And
Wow.
it's wild to me how Rumble has kind of grown over the last few years. Like it was 2 years ago, it was like a fringe network. Only like the most insane radical people were on it. And I think now, as more people are being chased off of platforms like Twitter, YouTube, etc., they're kind of migrating over to that. The real irony with Polly is that her main attack focus is the alternative media sphere. So we're beyond the point of people attacking mainstream media. Now it's the fringe of the fringe attacking alternative media, which they see as a new up and coming mainstream. But the real irony of it is she herself is like a form of alternative media. There is zero self awareness, zero. There's no mind there. Basically, is what I'm saying.
Well, you
She's
don't need to have
literally an
one. You don't
algorithm.
need to have one if you are operating under like a pseudo account, right? Where your actual name is not attached to your account. It's like nobody knows really who you are. You can be a keyboard warrior for as long as you want and as kind of as heavy as you want, and you can just go about the rest of your day in real life and not really feel anything like, hey, any sense of accountability of like what you said, who you said it to or
Yeah,
whatever. I mean, maybe that's okay to do. Just you should do that. Just say what you want freely. But I'm on more on the side of like do it under your own name.
exactly. I have always been ever since like the beginning of like my online presence. I've always been I've never like hidden behind a pseudonym. I'm not like an anon type, but mostly because any people that I meet online, I typically also meet in person eventually. When I grew up in South Florida, I was a part of like anime communities that we'd go to conventions together and stuff. So it's kind of fun when like some guy's talking shit about you online and then you meet in person and they're like a foot and a half shorter than you and you're like, "What's up?" That was that's always fun.
all of you
Um,
guys, all of you guys, including Paul, and then we met
oh,
obviously all in person as well eventually. So
yeah, I live for that kind of stuff because it's so cool to like see somebody online and you're like, man, I love the way this guy thinks. I love his content and stuff. And then you meet him in person, and they're like a cool person. I think there's
yeah,
nothing better than that to me as
yeah.
far as like meeting people online and then in person. Very
Okay,
very rarely have I ever like interacted with somebody online and then you meet them in person and they're like a real shithead.
yeah. Reed, have you seen more polys around her? I haven't. I don't remember.
I don't honestly, dude. I don't really pay much attention. I don't. This week is probably the exception, just
It
because
really is.
it's been kind of like impossible to ignore because everyone's talking about it. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I don't really care.
feel like
Reed's too chill for this kind of stuff.
no, I think like the size of like the Fredex community stuff too, it's like crazy. We haven't seen more polys around, but I think it's exactly because of like what you said, Justin. Like I feel like generally like
We've been
Reed
accused.
especially,
We've been
right? Like,
accused for trying to fix rates before.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like
I remember
that's
that.
been. There's definitely been like this flavor of thing in the past, but no one's ever taken it seriously. Nobody takes this seriously at all. Like, come on, give me a break.
And accusations like that are from within the freight community. So
Yeah,
it's like
that's true. That's true. This is
we
the
have
first time we've gotten like we've like touched like a different sphere, or a different sphere is like tried to interact with like this very kind of wired up group that's all like connected.
I call that breaking containment. So like when you have online communities and they have like their own inside jokes and references and stuff, and then whenever something like that breaks containment and moves into like the broader online community, that's a lot of fun to watch because it's like some people are in on the joke and they get it, and the others like aren't, and they're like just very confused and have no idea what's going on. And that's just a real opportunity for some fun and chaos and mischief.
I think like yeah, and like in the way that we react to it, like as a community generally, is that we don't take it seriously. Like nobody's really offended or anything. It's mostly just like memeing back, and I feel like that causes like it doesn't attract other people to then come in and like make the same kind of accusation and stuff to us because like what are you gonna do? We're just gonna like joke about it and like not take you seriously, right?
Yeah.
If we reacted differently, we'd probably see a lot more of it. I think so.
This is so far the most amount of time that I have spent even like thinking about this poly situation, because like while it was happening the entire week, I was just like doing other stuff. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Some person's just bickering, whatever. I'm sure Reed, Justin and everybody else you guys are gonna handle it. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna blow over, whatever. But just as like a summary of like everything that happened, like it's kind of entertaining, honestly.
Yeah. And to me, I see it as like it's a sign of just how big the community is growing. Like outside eyeballs are looking in and they're seeing this, and there will be some who will say that looks like a lot of fun, I want in, and then the others that are confused or angry, they can pound sand. The rest of us will stick around and have fun.
Yeah, that's true.
I gotta hop off, guys, but thanks for having me on. It was good chatting.
I got a 9 o'clock. Thank you all for coming, and this was a good episode. So we'll see everybody next week.
Thanks for letting me hop on the last minute.
Yeah.
Man. Take care.
See you guys.
Bye.